Before I open the hearing for the Barnstable Conservation Commission, I would like to ask Angela to do a roll call for the quorum purpose.
Abedili.
Present.
Hearn.
Present.
Kashulik.
Present.
Lee.
Present.
Sampu.
Present.
Tangney present. Administrator Ed Hoops.
Present.
Staff member Kim Kavanaugh.
Present.
All present, and we have a quorum, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Acting under the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and Law Chapter 237 of the Code of Town of Barnstable, the Barnstable Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, September the 23rd, 2025 at 6:30 p.m. for the applications of Irene Carey, Stephen Mojo. This hearing is being recorded and broadcast on the Town of Barnstable's Government's Access Channel. The plans and application are on file and may be reviewed by scheduling appointments by sending email requests to edhoops@230 South Street, Hyannis. In accordance with the Mass General Law, Chapter 38, Section 20, please let the chair know if anyone is recording this hearing. Hearing none. Tonight's hearing agenda is posted on the town's website. On the agenda next to each application is the amount owed to the Town of Barnstable for the cost of advertisements. Please send your checks to the Conservation Division at 230 South Street before the hearing. Remote participations. The Conservation Commission's public hearing will be held by remote participation as a result of an act extending certain COVID-19 measure adopted during the state of emergency signed by the Governor on March 28, 2025, suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law. Remote public access to this hearing shall be provided in the following manner. 1. The hearing will be televised via Xfinity Channel 8 or High Definition Channel 1072. It may also be accessed via Town of Barnstable's Government's Access Channel. 2. The real-time public comments can be addressed to the Conservation Commission utilizing the Zoom link 839-1845-2946 or use the toll-free phone number 888-475-4499 as shown on the agenda. 3rd, the public can also email the comments to edwin.hoops@town.barnstable.ma.us at least 8 hours prior to the hearing. Tonight, under the old and new business, we have 3 items. The first one is JMS Holdings. This is based on a decision from the appeal court and the memo from Tom Rosa that we sent out this morning. And Ed has revised the order of conditions as recommended by Tom Rosa. Any comment on that one, on this?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I do have a comment.
Yes, go ahead, John.
I read over that. I would like to suggest that we make a finding to be added into the order of conditions. What I propose is something like this. As requested by the court, the commission hereby grants a waiver to the 30-inch depth requirement based upon the pre-existing requirement on this pier of maintaining 12 inches of water under the property at its lowest position. The granting of this waiver is based on the specific facts of this application. And I'm trying to do that. I recommend doing that because I think that will clearly prevent this from being used as precedent in the application of our current guidelines.
Thank you, John. I think that should be fine. Any question for John from the commissioner? Pete?
I'm glad, John, that you are on our commission with us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Peter.
Legal evaluation. Cool. Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Could I have a motion to approve the revised order of conditions for the JMS holding with this SE 3-6084 with the amended finding proposed by John?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Hearn.
Aye.
Kashulik.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Sampu.
Aye.
Tangney, aye, and Abedili.
Aye. And Kim, I believe that Ed has that language.
Yes.
Yes, I have it. I'll add that into the appropriate section then.
Thank you.
The next item under the old and new business is BLT request for letter of support, Woodland Bog, CPA/conservation restrictions. Kelly?
Hi there. Hi, everyone. So
Hi.
So my name is Kelly Grant. I am Director of Land Conservation with Barnstable Land Trust, and I'm here to present to you two requests for a letter of support for two of our projects that we have going on at the moment. Is it okay for me to share my screen?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. You see that okay?
It's coming up, yes.
Great, thank you. So this first project is called Woodland Bogs. It's a 25.74 acre property at 301 Parker Road in West Barnstable. This is a retired cranberry bog property that holds significant conservation value. And that includes, as you can see on this map, that it's sandwiched in between two existing large conservation areas, the Bridge Creek Conservation Area and the Spruce Pond Sandhill Pond Conservation Area, also with the potential to create some new trail connections. The property is partially mapped as biomap wetland core habitat and buffer. And it includes a certified vernal pool near the entrance to the property and is bookended by two large vernal pool core habitat areas. It also includes some area that's designated as local landscape and borders some large areas of local landscape, which are considered to be important areas for providing habitat for a vast number of species due to their unfragmented nature and their connection with waters and wooded uplands. And it also includes a hydrologic connection to the Sandy Neck Barrier Beach system via the Bridge Creek, which connects with this property and wetlands to its southeast. And that's the Sandy Neck Barrier Beach system area of critical environmental concern, which make it super important for conserving the water quality in that area. So I'm just going to stop my sharing for a second. So Barnstable Land Trust has an agreement with this the current property owner of the Woodland Bog property for the purchase of the property. And we're seeking $307,500 in Community Preservation Act funding in support of that acquisition. And the town of Barnstable would hold the conservation restriction on the property largely in the form that we've provided to you for review. And we're looking for a letter of support of that CPA funding request and also approval of the conservation restriction with the ability to make some minor edits as the review process proceeds. So I'll leave it there and happy to answer any questions that you have on that property.
Thank you, Kelly. Any questions from Commissioner? Pete?
Yes, please, Kelly. The question I have, are there any restrictions on the kinds of recreational use that will be permitted on this land? Specifically, I know that the West Barnstable Conservation Land is a hunted area, primarily for white-tailed deer. Will hunting be allowed in this area as well?
So for the most part, this property is surrounded by homes. So under the state regulations, it's not really appropriate for hunting. And the area, I think that may be huntable is more of like the wetland area at the back part of the property. So there are some areas that may be appropriate for that use, but generally hunting wouldn't be allowed under the state regulations.
Well, certainly within 500 feet of a home.
Right.
All hunters know that.
Yeah. And
as long as it is not specifically no hunting. So we'll follow state regulations. Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
John?
Yes. Management of the property, ongoing maintenance, care, management. Who was responsible for that?
Barnstable Land Trust will be the owners of the property, so they'll be responsible for the ongoing maintenance.
Great, thank you.
Any other question from the Commissioner? Seeing none. Could I have a motion to approve the request and authorize the chairs to prepare the support letter?
You betcha.
Yes, second.
Roll call.
Abadili.
Aye.
Hearn.
Aye.
Kashulik.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Sampu.
Aye.
And Tangney, aye. That's unanimous, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. The next item is BLT request for the letter of support Mill Pond CPA/CR. Kelly?
Thank you. Once again, Kelly Grant, Director of Land Conservation for Barnstable Land Trust. This is the Mill Pond Preserve Project. Let me again share my screen. So this is a 13-acre property that is at 3640 Falmouth Road in Marston's Mills. As you can see, it's on Mill Pond, which is part of the Marston's Mills River system. This is a key remaining piece of natural land on Mill Pond in the Marston's Mills River and super important for wildlife habitat and particularly birding habitat on Mill Pond. The parcel is well connected to the Marston's Mills Conservation Area to its north and an extensive area of wellhead protection land to the east. And then across the pond, you can see some Barnstable Land Trust owned conservation parcels also in the vicinity. The parcel is partially mapped as biomap rare species core habitat, particularly within Mill Pond, but also in the northeast of the property there. And the entire property is mapped as biomap aquatic core habitat and buffer, representing that important habitat that this property provides, especially due to its connection to the existing open space surrounding it. The property is also partially mapped as Zone 2 wellhead protection area, obviously connected to that wellhead protection land to its east. And then part of a much larger local landscape block, again, this large area of intact unfragmented land that provides important habitat for a wide variety of species. And then this map shows you its location relative to the Marston's Mills River as a diadromous herring river spawning nursery and migratory habitat up to Middle Pond. So I'll leave this map up for now. Barnstable Land Trust for this project is seeking $600,000 in CPA Community Preservation Act funding in support of the acquisition of the property. The town of Barnstable, again, would hold a conservation restriction on this property, largely in the form that we've provided for review. In addition, this CR also grants to the town an easement onto the property for work in support of the proposed restoration of Mill Pond. So the town will be able to use the property for those purposes in the future if they need to. And again, we're looking for a letter of support for the Community Preservation Act funding request and approval of the conservation restriction with the ability to make minor edits as the review process proceeds.
Thank you, Kelly. Any question from the commissioner? None? Could I have a motion to approve the request and authorize the chair to prepare the support letter?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Abadili,
Aye.
Hearn,
Aye.
Pashulik,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Sampu,
Aye.
and Tangney, aye. That's unanimous, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Kelly.
much.
We have two RDH tonight. The first one is Irene Carey, proposed deck expansion at 70 Corner Road, Sandyville, as shown on the Assessors Map 251, parcel 023. Irene,
Yes, sir.
go ahead. Do you want to talk about your projects or you just want to take questions?
I'm happy to do either. You tell me what you prefer.
If you can talk about their project first, just briefly, and then we can go on questions.
Okay, members of the Conservation Commission, my name is Irene Clary. I own 70 Connors Road with my husband, Andrew Clary, and we have had the property for approximately 10 years. Every year we try to do something different to upgrade or improve the property. Last year we replaced all the siding and did a lot of improvements inside. What I'm proposing this year and in front of you today is we have a deck that is approximately 35 feet by 14 and 10 feet, depending on whether you're on the one side or the other. And what we'd like to do is replace that deck with Aztec, and it is a much more durable product. It withstands the elements, it tests the time. And we also want to add 10 feet to that deck just to make it a little bit more livable. We have 3 kiddos and a dog, and it would be nice just to have that extra space to enjoy the outdoor area and the lake. So that is what we're doing. I also want to improve the look. Right now there is the facade of the end of the deck as it goes down to the grass is very aesthetically displeasing. So I want to do something that will look good. It'll have less maintenance. I'm a developer in construction. I got my general contractor's license, and I'm always doing ground up communities that are for sale product. And I like quality, I like good design, and that's what this is about.
Thank you. Any question from the commissioner? Angela?
Yeah, I have one. It's probably more of a clarification. When I went to look at this property, the deck that you have right now is totally enclosed all the way around it down to the ground. The front has a wooden lattice, and the sides are actually look like they have cedar shingles on them and concrete. So there's absolutely no light getting under the deck now. So this 10-foot expansion towards the resource, are you going to enclose that as well? Or are you going to leave it open? Could you explain the design?
Sure, absolutely. The deck itself right now does have the lattice, and right as you open that area at the end of the deck, underneath is what we store, you know, our paddle boards, our kayaks. We have somewhat toyed with the idea of making it a little bit more open to the backyard and creating that space where you could, you know, maybe put in a ping pong table or something. But at the end of the day, the deck would also have an enclosure at the end, which would not be the lattice. It would be an Aztec material, which would be a much more aesthetically pleasing. We would still have the pickets and have light source that would be installed as part of the overall decking system.
So you would be enclosing it underneath?
No, it's already enclosed, but it's an outdoor enclosed area. So you can't, it's not livable. It's not air conditioned or heated.
Right, right. Understood, because right now you have grass that goes all the way to your wall and then a sandy beach. So there's really no buffer. And so other than, you know, the grass you've planted. So you're going to continue to grow grass under your extension.
There is no grass there right now. So right now it's pretty much rock.
Right. I meant the extension, the addition you're asking for, will that remain grass under it, or are you going to continue putting rock underneath?
It would most likely be grass if we were to have it as an outdoor space where the kids can go downstairs and, you know, play ping pong or do other games within that area. Or we might just leave it as, you know, storage area for kayaks and little boats and stuff.
Okay. I'm just a little uncomfortable with doing this as an RDA without all the understanding of what's going to happen actually to the surface below. But thank you.
You're welcome.
Bill?
Yeah, I'd like to further clarify. The deck that you're, I'm not interested in the deck that you currently have that has the lattice and it's enclosed. You're going to expand it 10 feet, and underneath it is grass, and you're going to maintain the grass, right?
Right.
And the deck is going to be, if you will, porous, meaning there is the capacity for rain to essentially water the grass under it, right?
Correct.
Okay, then I'm good with that. Okay. What this commissioner would want is to try to maintain and protect the lawn and any runoff value, the value of that lawn to filter contaminants and whatnot. So maintaining it as grass under it is important, and allowing the rain to basically water it through the new
System.
I'm good with that. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Bill. Any other question from the commissioner?
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, Ed?
Yeah, I would just suggest that you do add one small condition that just say that the deck extension may not be enclosed above or below deck without prior Conservation Commission approval.
Okay.
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
Yeah, Tom, could I expand on that, Jeffrey?
Sure, Jeff.
Yeah, unless I'm missing something, I don't see how the grass is going to grow on it or survive underneath that 10-foot deck. Depending, I'm not exactly sure what I don't see the proposed elevations. So where I'm going is, if the grass doesn't survive, to Bill's point about the runoff, is that if the grass doesn't survive, there should be some source of crushed stone or gravel underneath it that will slow that runoff down.
And that's what we have right now. We have the crushed stone that is underneath that deck, and it is the water does penetrate down and out. It's sloped to do that.
Irene also sent out the email with some photos on the existing deck.
If I could I respond to Jeffrey?
Yeah.
This deck is fairly high. I mean, you've got the potential with sunlight to get under it.
At least 8 or 9 feet.
It's pretty high up. So I see the grass living as long as the grass is getting watered, which is why I suggested that the deck should have some, it should be somewhat porous, a little space between the boards or what have you.
Yeah.
And so.
May I speak, Mr. Chairman?
Sure, go ahead.
And this is very unrelated to the deck proposal, but what we've done here, and I do live in Arizona. We've put in our artificial turf, like really good quality artificial turf, which is a much better, application for a lot of reasons. Saving water. You don't have fertilizers. It seems like a lot of fertilizers are still used, which is not quite right from what I've read of Lake Wequaquet and the pollutants that it is trying to avoid. But, that might be a really good system for the municipality to take a look at. It's very well received within the municipalities here in Arizona, and aesthetically it looks nice, but you're also preserving water. You're not putting contaminants in the lakes. So I just wanted to put that as a side note. Right now we do have a sprinkler system. We have the grass, but landscapers tend to want to kill the weeds and whatnot, and I don't think that's necessarily a very good thing to be doing and potentially contaminating the lakes.
Thank you for your comment.
You're welcome.
If there's no more comments, Channel 18, any public comment on this one?
Seeing none.
None. Could I have a motions to approve this project as proposed, but the Ed, what you're saying, that the condition is you need the commissioner's approval to install the
the deck extension may not be enclosed above or below deck without prior Conservation Commission approval.
Yeah. Okay.
Or an artificial substrate. Should we not have I mean, I personally don't think that the artificial turf is appropriate. And so should we not be trying to curb that?
No, this is the natural grass, and the comment that's been made was
Right.
whether it was artificial turf or not. But one of the problem with the artificial turf is you have to check the quality of the turf, and there may be some PFAS and all that stuff in there. So let's stay away from that for now.
Well, as long as, to Bill's point though, as long as it requires staff approval, Bill, I think you got it covered.
Yeah.
Okay.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Tangney, aye. Abadili,
Aye.
Sampu,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Kashulik,
Aye.
and Hearn.
Aye.
That's unanimous, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Good luck, Irene.
Thank you so much. Have a good evening.
Good evening. The second RDA is Stephen Mojo reduce the height of the undergrowth near the pond to 2 to 4 feet to reestablish the previous existing view corridor at 1179 Main Street, contoured as shown in Assessors Map 019, Parcel 130-002. Stephen? Unmute yourself, Stephen.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I'm requesting an RDA to Vista Prune at the edge of our pond to reestablish the view corridor that was there 10 years ago. What you have there is a picture of what it looked like from my deck 10 years ago. What you see is the same shot last year, and you see that the undergrowth continues to grow both from the bottom and around the side, and this is where it was today. So we'd like to reestablish the view corridor, and I've talked to Steve Haywood and a few other arborists, and I'm comfortable with them actually doing the execution of the plan, given your approval.
Thank you, Steve. Question from the commissioner.
Yeah, where is it? Yes.
Go ahead, John.
I think the request was 2 to 4 feet. Is that right, Mr. Bishop?
That is correct, yes.
Why is it necessary to go down to 2 feet? Couldn't you maintain the corridor, keeping it at a 4-foot length, which is more traditional to what we use?
Yes, I didn't know if those plants could be cut precisely to 4 feet or 3 feet or 6 feet or 2 feet. I proposed a range that seemed reasonable.
Yeah, I just think that from a point of view of how to rate this RDA, I would think that a general undulating cutting at the 4 foot would be okay with me.
I can live with that.
Thank you, John. Pete?
Yeah, I agree with Commissioner Abadili, but essentially standard vista pruning. I mean, we have examples all throughout our town of vistas that were spectacular 10, 20, 50 years ago. So we aren't going to necessarily have everything that we had in the past, but we do have standard vista pruning guidelines. And I'm perfectly cool with Mr. Mojo having sort of a standard vista back to his property. Thank you.
Thank you, Pete. So what that means is that, before you do the vista pruning, you have to meet with the conservation staff to go over what you need to be cut and how to cut it with your arborist before you cut it. That's the protocol for the standard vista pruning.
That's fine from my perspective.
Thank you. Any other question from the commissioner? None. Roberta, you raise your hand.
Yes, I don't know how to make the volume. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, hi. I'm sorry, I wasn't fast enough to raise my hand, but that artificial turf, I hope that that is investigated. I don't know what that could do to the groundwater from the rain and going to the pond. I think that shouldn't be allowed unless that's investigated. And I don't know if that was stated. I'm sorry. That's my comment on the project with the deck.
Yeah, with the previous RDA.
Yes, I'm sorry, I'm late. Thank you.
Okay, that's okay. Channel 18, any public comment on this one?
Seeing none.
None? Could I have a motion to approve this project as a standard vista pruning with the meeting with the staff before you're doing the vista pruning?
So
And
moved.
generally limit it to a 4-foot height or higher.
Right, right.
Yes, so moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Abadili,
Aye.
Hearn,
Aye.
Kashulik,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Sampu,
Aye.
Tangney, aye. That's unanimous, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And
Thank you very much.
yeah,
Have a
good luck.
evening.
Tonight we don't have any NOI, but we have 4 continuances. The first one is Tobias Willows to repair, reconstruct sandbag array originally authorized and constructed under SE 3-2677 and SE 3-2678. Provide beach nourishments and on bank planting as needed at 25 and 35 Covaling, Austerville, as shown on Assessors Map 052 and 053, parcels 009 and 012-002. This is a continuous from August the 5th without testimony, and the quorum is every commissioner. Arlene?
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, before Ms. Wilson opens this up, we just got the plan a little while ago. I, for one, have not had a chance to look at it. I'm kind of wondering or suggesting, Arlene, maybe you want to continue this rather than open it and we'll go through the full conversation when the commission has had time, because I would not be ready to rule on this tonight, having not had the opportunity to review it. That's just my thought.
No, the Arlene submitted the plan. The existing condition plan was submitted last Thursday afternoon. So I think it may only be you and Bill that may have a chance to look at the plan. And I myself and Angela and Jeff did not have the chance to look at that.
Correct.
Nor did I, is my point. So that, I just think it's up to Ms. Wilson, obviously, but just a suggestion, Arlene, to open it up once.
Arlene, what do you think?
First, good evening. Arlene Wilson, AM Wilson Associates.
Hi, Arlene.
For the Wheelos, with a half a step back. Actually, these plans were submitted electronically on Wednesday of last week. The paper prints were gotten to your office on Thursday. And I understand that several of you have been away and haven't had enough time to review the plans. What I would like to do is to take just a few minutes and give you sort of a quick overview, understanding that you're not ready to make a decision tonight, but maybe it will help introduce the plans to you and make them a little bit easier for you to review, if that's all right.
So you will have to ask for a continuance, as you know, Arlene, from procedurally.
Actually, what I'd like to do, because I don't know if you guys still have your three continuance rule, I'd rather have you ask me for a continuance.
Oh.
So then it's on you and not on me this time.
You got it. But you have to agree.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
So very quickly.
Okay.
These 2 properties have been involved in attempts to stabilize the bank since 1993, when the original sandbag walls were approved. And the original revetments held up reasonably well for quite a long time. This section of bank is not wide open to the ocean. It takes a particular storm from a particular angle in order to do damage. We've had essentially 2 rounds like that, one in the mid-teens, which resulted in an attempt to build salt marsh. And if I can share my screen very quickly.
Sure.
Let's give this a shot. So you can see here that there's salt marsh at each end of this site, down where the pier is, and then up on the Winchester property at the very south end of Timms Point. It's the section in the middle, for some reason, where there is no salt marsh. That's the problem. And the attempt to build salt marsh was in this area. It didn't work. And so we then started working for the Wheelos about 3.5 years ago and proposed a wave break that would have been out on the beach rather than at the toe of the bank. As some of you know, that attempt is still in appeal. And this is an attempt to sort of give the Wheelos and the Winchesters some immediate, relatively immediate protection on that bank, try and get the place restabilized and replanted. And if it works, then maybe all the appeals go away. So you had asked us to provide you with the current survey, which we have done, and tune up the design to meet the existing conditions. So as you can see, what we're proposing, depending on the actual area, because the angle of the bank changes from location to location. But in general, it's to fill in the scarp at the bottom with sandbags, a couple of coir rolls to hold the toe of the bags. The coir rolls are heavier and somewhat more stable. Keep some cover over the sandbags, and then plant the absolute lowest section of the sandbags, which is exposed to waves in a 1 or 2 year storm event, to some high marsh plants, and then hydroseed over the rest of the sandbags with native grasses. Put down some Curlex erosion control blanket. For those of you who aren't familiar with that particular project, most of you are old enough to remember the Excelsior packing material, wood shavings. And that's what this material is made from, provides heat on the bank to help germinate the seed and holds water and biodegrades rather well. And then overplant in that blanket with Rosa rugosa, because that seems to be the only shrub that's happy on that section of the bank. And then we would propose site inspections annually to make sure that there's cover over the sandbags. There was a lot of confusion in the past about when it was necessary to cover the bags, when it wasn't. It was the result of some older typical language that was used in the 90s in this kind of project. Nobody uses that language anymore. So we would propose an annual inspection with the provision of additional cover for the sandbags and beach nourishment if necessary. About 63 cubic yards a year is what both coastal geologists who have worked on this project have recommended, and report annually to the commission as well. We've looked at 2 methodologies for construction here. One obviously, is to bring everything in by barge. I think most of you who have been out to this site, you know, there's really no access down this slope. It's very high, very steep. And so the one contractor who's looked at this has proposed bringing everything in by barge, keeping a small machine, a bobcat type machine, on the barge when it's not working on the beach. We can only work on the oncoming tide and at high tide and to about half tide on the out. So we have a short work window during the day here. However, we've talked to another contractor who believes that he can bring the material in overland, have the truck with the sand parked in the street and pump essentially a slurry of sand up across the yard, down over the bank. Have a small machine that would access the site through the Winchester property and come down the beach, and that would be kept in the back dune area on the Winchester property when it wasn't actually working. So we're continuing to talk with those contractors. Methodology would be provided to you before work started, and I would anticipate a site visit with Ed and whoever else wanted to be there to firm up things before work started. And if anybody has any questions tonight, I'd be happy to answer them for you.
Thank you, Arlene. Any question from the commissioner? None?
Not yet.
We will have to go and take a look at the drawing and do the site visit and check on the conditions. 10:18, any public comment on this one?
Seeing none.
So, Arlene, how much time do you think you need a continuance? Is October the 7th good?
Since the problem's not mine, it's yours. I guess the question is, how long do you need? I would hope it wouldn't go beyond the 7th if that's your next meeting.
That would be fine with me, Tom. I don't know about the other commissioners.
Yeah, me too. I just haven't gone down to my mailbox since last week.
Okay, good.
Yep, good with me.
Okay. Could I have a motion to continue this applications to October the 7th?
So moved. Second.
Roll call.
Abadili,
Aye.
Hearn,
Aye.
Kashulik,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Sampu,
Aye.
and Tangney, aye. That's unanimous.
Thank you.
And in the meantime, if the commissioners during your review come up with questions, please relay them to Ed, and Ed can relay them to me so that we can get these things hopefully settled at the next meeting.
Great.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Arlene. Thank you.
The next continuance is Town of Barnstable DPW proposed maintenance dredging of mid entrance channels and Blush Point boat ramp access channel to the previous authorized depths at 307 Millway Road, Barnstable, as shown on the Assessors Map 301, parcel 064. And this is a continuance from September the 9th, waiting for the NHSP comment. And the quorum is every commissioner. And we received the NHSP letter dated September the 11th, and they don't have any comment. Basically, they are saying that the division has determined that this project is currently proposed will not adversely affect the actual resource area habitat of state protected rare wildlife species. Under the MESA, the division has determined that this project as currently proposed will not result in a prohibited tick of state listed rare species. Could I have a motion to close the public hearing and authorize the staff to issue the order of conditions?
A quick question, Tom or Angela, were Pete and Jeff on that?
Yes, the original. This has gone a couple meetings where we were waiting for that letter, and now we have it. That's all we needed.
Well, were they, I don't know, Pete and Jeff, my note said you were not here for that, for the opening. I don't know. I could be very wrong, Angela. I apologize.
That's okay. I think everybody's on it. Same thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I make the motion.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
roll call.
Hearn,
Aye.
Kashulik,
Jeff?
I got him. Lee,
Aye.
Sampu,
Aye.
Tangney, aye, and Abadili.
Aye.
That's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you. And this is the next continuance is the main applications for tonight. Town of Barnstable DBW, constructions of a new sewer pump stations with precast concrete structures, control panels, standby generator, and approximately 580 feet of 4-inch force main. Site work includes utility connections, sidewalks, and paved improvement, and temporary dewatering during below-grade constructions, with treated groundwater discharge to N. Betty's Pond at 45 Mitchells Way, maps 308, parcel 273-002 and 268 Stevens Streets, INS map 308, parcel 017. This is a continuance from September the 9th without testimony, and the quorum is everyone. Who wants to start, Rob?
Thank you, Commissioner. Good evening, everybody. My name is Rob Steen. I'm with the Department of Public Works. I'll be joined tonight by Kelly Colopy and Mike Tu from the Department of Public Works, and Zayed Carey and Callie Thompson from Apex Companies, LLC. Kelly, can you bring that presentation up?
Everyone see that?
Yes.
Yep.
So as background, once we get going here. Next slide, please. There we go. So the genesis of this project was the Housing Assistance Corporation identified 268 Stevens Street for a housing project. You may or may not know that 268 Stevens Street was previously a car dealership. It was sewered, but the existing sewer was inadequate for a housing development. It crossed over the street to the next private parcel and went through actually a private sewer that was there that was too small to handle what they were proposing. So DBW identified early in the process that a new sewer connection was going to be necessary for that property. In 2023, the town applied for and received the housing choice grant for approximately $1.4 million to facilitate the installation of the new pump station. The pump station was there to support the Hawk development. However, DPW was also interested in it because we could then sewer about an additional 45 properties in the surrounding area that would protect Stewart's Creek. Apex Companies, who are with us tonight, was retained to do the design and permitting of the project. And the sewer infrastructure and the limit of work was all outside of the wetland jurisdictional boundaries. So therefore, no Conservation Commission filings were necessary at the time. The bid was done in the fall of 2024, where Seaski's Construction was awarded the construction contract. Kelly, if you can give my next slide, please. So these are the areas that will be served by the pump station. The pump station, just to orient people, is the yellow star on that property at the corner of sort of North and Stevens there. And those areas in pink will be served by this. Kelly? Continuing the background of the pump station. So the pump station wet well requires about a 25-foot deep excavation. As the chairman noted, groundwater in the area is about 4 feet below, so we are going to need to temporarily dewater to be able to get the wet well in and the dry well in. The contractor retrained professional engineer, GZA and Geoenvironmental, prepare that dewatering plan. And what it ended up coming down to is that there's 3 well pumps, each at 300 gallons per minute per well, to get the groundwater down. The town is a town-owned property at 45 Mitchell's Way that was identified as the discharge site. It is within the same watershed as where the water is coming from. The conservation agent reviewed that location in June of 2025 and we were allowed to proceed as of July 8th of 2025.
We weren't allowed to do shit. It was illegal.
On July 21st, the dewater activities were paused due to concerns expressed by the community. Slide, please. So just to speak to, dewatering in general and how that works. So in our profession, if you need to install infrastructure below grade, whatever that infrastructure may be, and if it's below grade and below the groundwater level, the way we do that is we pump down the groundwater at that localized area, install the infrastructure in the dry, and then allow the groundwater to come back. We've done this a number of times already in town with the CWMP. The pump station, the corners of Finney's Lane was done that way. The pump station at 725 Main Street was done that way. Sewering on Finney's Lane itself was done that way. And the way it works is kind of like this. These are notional wells that are put in. They're not meant to represent this project, but just in general. You'll see the existing groundwater at 0.1, where that level is. The pumps are turned on. Groundwater is lowered to 0.2. The installation is put in, and then when the backfill is done, the pumps are turned off and groundwater returns to its initial level. At this point, I'm going to turn the presentation over to Zayed, who's going to talk to you about sort of the specifics going forward of this request.
Thank you, Rob.
Thank you, Rob. My name is Ziad Pieri. I am a principal engineer with Apex Companies. With me here also is Callie Thompson. You'll hear from her a little bit down the line here. But just to add a little bit to what Rob has described, so we were retained in 2024 to design this pump station. And the pump station has three major components, the wet well being about 25 feet below grade, which includes the depth of the excavation and the overdig. And that's controlled by the fact of the flow coming into the wet well, the gravity sewer, and the diameter of the wet well. So it really has to be that deep. A little bit shallower than that, there is the valve controlled structure, and it's all precast. So technically, the contractor orders the precast components, they get delivered to the site, they get the excavation, they lower the groundwater as required by the contract document. So the water has to be lowered by a minimum of 2 feet below the bottom elevation of the excavation, keep the hole dry, install the structures to kind of mitigate against future settlement and then any unforeseen conditions. And then once the structures are in place, the structures get tested for exfiltration to make sure they're tight, watertight. And then when that happens, they get backfilled and then the pumping would stop. So back in 2024, in May, we completed the geotechnical exploration within the location of the wet well. And we went down 50 feet. We turned the boring at the end of the excavation, at the end of the exploration, into a monitoring well. And then groundwater was about 4 feet below grade, like Rob mentioned. And usually this is indicative of high groundwater table because it's seasonal in the spring, and therefore it was 4 feet below grade. In addition to the precast structures, there is a 600 linear foot force main that pumps the effluent from the wet well up to 396 North Street into the collection system, and then ultimately that discharges into the wastewater treatment facility in town. Next slide, please. Oh, sorry, you, Kelly.
Is it possible to ask a question?
No, not at this point. Let's the presentation finished, then the commissioner will go through the question before we go to the public comment.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ziad. I'm Callie Thompson. Been asked to step in and get involved with concern regarding the project. I'm a professional wetland scientist and certified ecologist with a specialty in impact avoidance and minimization, mitigation, and restoration. Regarding alternatives analysis, as DPW introduced, the purpose and need for the project was based on goals for removal of nitrogen loading in Stewart's Creek and infrastructure upgrades associated with town planning. As far as the evaluation of a different location, citing the pump station was evaluated based on town-owned properties and easements for the service area, with each location in the vicinity resulting in similar dewatering requirements. Evaluation then moved to siting alternatives for discharge and exploring near site and off site vicinities. For near site evaluation, discharge directly to the stream was not a preferred option for multiple reasons, including environmental considerations. Discharge to an excavated pit on site at 268 Stevens was also not practical due to the shallow depth of groundwater and being up gradient of the proposed drawdown. This would result in basically just a water loop circulating and not effectively dewatering the system. Discharge to roadway stormwater systems for Mitchell's Way were determined to be inadequate in size to handle the pumping and associated volume. And the discharge to 45 Mitchell's Way, also being town-owned, was identified to have sufficient space for a settling tank, a sedimentation basin, and provide a vegetated buffer between the discharge point and the protected wetland resource areas. For off-site evaluation, these were up gradient, discharge to the stormwater drain manhole located on Stevens Street is approximately 900 feet away. It connects to the outfall in an up gradient wetland system and had minimal space for tie-in. This would result in the need to pump out of the tank from on site and add concern for flooding if it was not implemented during drought conditions, as well as the extended distance, adding logistics and impacts in the community. Discharge to the rear of HYCC, which is approximately 1,700 feet away. This would discharge to Crooked Pond, outletting through residential rear yards to reach the wetland. This also came with concern potential for flooding and time of year to execute the pumping safely. This higher potential for flooding in these two areas resulted in back to the 45 Mitchell's Way option. These options were reviewed with the conservation agent prior to the dewatering operation, and discharge at 45 Mitchell's Way parcel was determined to be the most viable solution.
Okay, so as mentioned above, the contractor was required by the contract document to hire a consulting engineer to, one, design the supportive excavation and the dewatering plan to be able to lower the groundwater table to 2 feet below the excavation. And GZA Environmental was the design engineer that supported CC Construction in the design of both the dewatering plan and the supportive excavation. So they designed and implemented 3 deep wells around the structures, meaning next to the adjacent to the wet well and the valve vault and adjacent to the pump station location. And as mentioned above, the discharge was noted to be at 45 Mitchell's Way. And based on hydraulic conductivities and modeling, the assumption was the wells will produce somewhere around 300 gallons per minute per well. Next slide, please. So what you see here, a profile of the components. In the middle of the left screen, it's the wet well. That's the deepest part of the excavation. With the overdig is somewhere around 25 feet from finished grade. And to the right of that is the valve vault, which is much shallower. And we'll talk about the sequencing at the end there. And there's a sewer manhole that would be taking the influent from the collection system into the wet well, and that's slightly lower than the valve vault. The photo to the right, it's a modeling output that shows the zone of influence and with the center line of the excavation obviously being the deepest, and the drawdown as you go away from the excavation, the drawdown would obviously be higher on the y-axis. Next slide, please. This is a plan view of the dewatering plan. To the right is the box, which consists of the supportive excavation with the 3 wells shown in circles. The 3 wells are interconnected with PVC piping, and then the PVC piping will take the pumped water from the deep wells onto the discharge location, which consists of a frac tank and sedimentation, a silt bag, and then ultimately it goes out to surface water discharge. Next slide, please. Again, this is a photo of what was installed in the field. The header, the 3-inch PVC pipe that carries the pumped water out to the discharge location. The photo on the right there, where the pipe comes up and over, that's the frac tank for settling. Then the water was coming out crystal clear. And then from there to the next slide, if you would. So from the frac tank goes into the silt bag, the sedimentation, and then out discharge to the pond. So in the monitoring plan that was submitted by GZA on behalf of CC Construction, the monitoring plan consists of 4 staff gauges to be located in locations where they could be measured on a regular basis. The first location was at the top, the upstream wetland between the site and Crooked Pond. That's location number 1, as identified here on the next slide as well. And location number 2 is the discharge location at Aunt Betty's Pond. And the location number 3 was at the culvert under North Street, and location number 4 was Stewart's Creek. So the concept of the monitoring plan was to visit these locations and then note the change in elevation twice a day. Again, assuming the radius of influence is about 850 feet, which encompasses these 4 locations as shown on that drawing. The monitoring style, I don't think we have a picture of it, but it's just a graduated ruler that you could see you could measure the elevation of water on there, and that's visibly located at these 4 locations. And again, that was measured twice a day. It was visited twice a day by town staff and then the contractor as well. Next slide, please. So the effects on the nearby wetlands, the assessment by the design engineer was based on if the wetlands if the water level were to rise in the wetland, that would be acceptable. If there is a drop in the nearby wetland up to 4 inches, it's a reasonable drop and would be monitored, continue to be monitored on a regular basis. If that level approaches about 7 inches, the pumps will immediately shut off, and there will be a course of action to come up with a different plan. And again, in addition to the levels at these staff gauges, the pH would be monitored, and the temperature of the water coming out of the ground would be also monitored, and the contractor would be on call 24/7 to make any arrangements. Next slide, please. From scheduling standpoint, the dewatering to reestablish the pumps and dewater for the wet well, it's an activity that we think it's going to be about 2 weeks, which requires about a week to put the pumps, lower the groundwater table, and excavate, get down to the bottom of the excavation, prepare the subgrade, install the precast structure, test it for leakage and water tightness, and then upon successful testing, the structure would be backfilled and compacted, and that activity was anticipated to be about 2 weeks. The testing and backfill of the well, altogether 2 weeks, like one, I guess, for excavation and the other one for testing. The valve vault was about a week because it's much shallower and requires less effort in terms of depth of the excavation and then dewatering. And then the sewer manhole will be done also in conjunction with that work, and that's anticipated to be about 1 week. So from start to finish, the anticipated work would be about 8 weeks, including dewatering, and backfill and then dismantling the dewatering system.
May I ask a question at this point?
No, let me go to the commissioner first.
It says questions or feedback on my screen. Okay.
Are you all set for the presentation?
Yes, thank you.
Any question from the commissioner?
Kelly, why don't you stop sharing?
John?
Just a couple of quickies. First of all, that alternative analysis, I didn't see it in writing. I would, and it is required, as Dr. Hearn mentioned to me at one point, but I assume you're going to submit that in writing to the conservation staff. Is that correct? That alternative analysis, although it's in the recorded record, should be in the written record as well.
Yes, that would be correct.
Oh, okay.
Who's answering that?
Yeah, who said yes to that?
This is Callie from Apex. We will be working with DPW based on discussion from conservation to provide the additional clarification requested, and that would include a alternatives analysis.
Okay, that alternative analysis that you presented verbally should, in my opinion, be entered into the record in written form as well. Just so I'd request that. Secondly, I want to make a general comment about the filing. All my years in the commission, I've never seen a filing this thick. I suspect it was loaded with a lot of information that was not relevant, and I'd kind of caution you about that happening again. I found that very disturbing. Just a comment. Second question, and again, we've received multiple extremely well presented emails and letters raising a bunch of serious questions which need to be addressed. But one recently talked about PFAS, the PFAS content in groundwater. By dewatering, by dumping significant amount of groundwater into Aunt Betty's Pond, can you address the concern, if any, that might exist from any PFAS that's in the groundwater and what it would do to the resources and specifically to the pond? That's the question I would ask.
Now, I would say full disclosure, I have been pulled into this in part because of the questions and concerns. So I am getting up to speed on the full history of the project and what has been documented to date. However, that was noted as a specific call out in the comments received, and we will provide a response.
So you're not prepared to address that tonight, but you will address it? Is that what you said?
Correct. We are not prepared to address that tonight. We did not have time to prepare responses to some of the comments received today, especially, but we will provide responses. Okay,
well, that's concerning. Second point I kind of like to make is that, you know, when I was out there, spent a long time out there today with several members of the staff kind of going through this. I have read and reread the comments submitted by several different groups, which were extremely well thought out and presented. Those comments, I'm sure, will come up later in the conversation. But I'd like, if you're prepared now, some of the concerns about the amount of water flow that's going in, and you've got two resources there. You've got the buffer zone that water is spilling over and going through, and then you have the impact on the pond. Could you kind of address the concerns that have been raised and its impact on both those resources, the buffer zone and the pond? What impact do you anticipate having on both those resources that we're obligated to protect?
Based on, and I have also been to the site as well as part of this QA/QC of data to date. The dewatering basin is abutting the 50-foot buffer, but it is outside of it. And there is significant vegetation that all appear to be healthy after this would be now several weeks past stop of work, and no apparent evidence of impacts resulting from the previously conducted efforts prior to this discussion. And the seasonal fluctuation of the water table in a wetland system is normal, and based on the proposed schedule, these are considered temporary impacts at this time. However, we are doing a more robust review of that given concerns and points raised in public comment.
Thank you. I assume if in fact there was any damage to the resources, any of those resources, there'd be a requirement if this order was approved for corrective action, whatever that is required at the time. I assume we would make that a condition if this is otherwise approved. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Bill?
Yeah, I've got 5 points I think I want to raise right now. To begin with, to follow up on what John just said, I know that a fellow named Cambereri, who was a hydrologist, he brought up the PFAS. He has, he has a pretty good resume, and he did not address any legal restrictions on PFAS. And I don't know if there is or isn't any, but he thought that DPW should contact the DEP. And the fact that you apparently have not, I think, given the interest in this project, I think that's important that you do that. And I don't want to presuppose what the answer is, but it may well be that there is no reg and it's done all the time. I'm not saying it's bad or good or what. I think I don't know. And therefore, I think the DEP should be contacted. My second point is pump duration. We just saw this whole project was 8 weeks long. And my interest is largely on how long you're going to literally be pumping. I mean, you're bringing this, you're having a drawdown, and it's going to be drawn down. And after it's drawn down, you're going to be working in this hole, I think. How long is this going to be pumping? I mean, literally, how long are you going to keep pumping? Probably, if you will, in a nonstop way. It might be something happens, we have to turn it on for 6 hours or whatever. But initially, what is that duration? Is it, I think you were suggesting 2 weeks, but I'd like to have that confirmed.
Yeah, I could speak to that.
Okay.
The pumping duration prior to this operation being stopped late July, the contractor was almost at subgrade. So if they go back today, the pumps are already in, the wells are already in. They have to, and by the way, we measured the groundwater table here today, compared it to the seasonal high groundwater table that was found in May 2024. And today is 5 feet, 10 inches below grade, whereas in 2024 was about 4 feet below grade. So they'd have to go back and then pump that water, draw it down to the elevation that is required. And that activity will take 4 to 5 days, and then 1 day to set the well, a couple of days to test it, and then the rest of it would be backfilled. So altogether, the activity would be about 2 weeks.
The pumping, the active pumping, drawing down of the water table. Okay. My third point, in your alternative analysis, you said discharge to the stream, not preferred. And I'd like to hear a little more about why that is not preferred. I'm not saying that what you're proposing is a unacceptable impact in terms of your discharge site. But again, you're going to be dumping, well, that's maybe my fifth question. I'm getting ahead of myself. But the point is you're going to be having water flowing overland. And the potential for erosion is going to be my fifth point. If you were discharging it directly into the stream, just bring it over there, might that not lessen the potential scouring of the landscape, if you will, by just dumping the water straight in there? And it seemed like I did not really get a real sense as to why can't you just bring a, if you will, you would want to have that sediment tank filter the sediment out. That's a great thing. But then just shoot it after it comes out of the sediment tank over to the stream. Is there some reason you can't do that?
Because it would flow back into the area.
It would do what?
I'm sorry, the stream is upstream.
Excuse me.
Hold it. No.
Excuse me. Bill, you ask questions and let the consultant answer the questions.
I'm thinking that was a consultant. I'm sorry.
No,
Yeah.
Julie is not the consultant.
I was like, whoop.
Sorry.
Yeah. So the consultants, can you speak to why can't you just discharge straight into the stream?
That would be a point source discharge in terms of it would be a direct discharge to the stream. Those are regulated differently than indirect discharges under both EPA and DEP rules. It also, for me, creates more of a concern for scour and erosion with dissipation in the dewatering basin helps slow the energy of the water. And then it goes through, it has currently double layer filtration in a rock bed, multiple layers of black geofiber and hay bales to slow the energy of the water coming out, and multiple layers of filtration. Whereas if it directly discharged into a stream, we could put it through a filter bag or similar, but it would be less filtration and more energy entering the stream.
Okay, fair enough. So that discharge of roughly 2 cubic foot a second that's coming out of that's 900 gallons a minute. It goes into the sediment tank, and then it runs into that I don't know what you call it, infiltration basin. And then it looks as though it might then spill over into a kind of a secondary rocked area, as I see it. Is that water going to all percolate down in that infiltration basin, or is that thing likely to be spilling over?
It has additional controls to prevent like extensive overflow, right? It is intended to infiltrate and percolate in that dewatering basin. Volume-wise, that is also part of the purpose of the monitoring, is it controlling the volume of water that is discharging and making sure it is within design parameters for the dewatering basin and not in excess of. So things like rain events, if there were added water, then we could stop and wait until water levels were appropriate to continue.
And my last question is, I watched the council meeting, and Mark Ells got up and he asserted that that Finney's Lane and the Main Street pump station were larger, and this is how we do it. And I was just wondering, I'm curious, this is, I guess, when you did this work at Finney's, when you did this at Main Street, there were undoubtedly trees around, and the trees are being affected by a drawdown. I wondered, were there any reports of trees and shrubs dying as a result of the Finney's Lane and the Main Street station?
Mike, why don't you take this one?
Yeah. Hi, Bill. My name is Mike too. I'm the assistant town engineer. I am the project manager, was the project manager for Finney's Lane Pump Station located at 1456 Falmouth Road. And I am the project manager for 725 Main Street Pump Station. It's just engaged in a significant dewatering effort in and around Stewart's Creek. I can tell you that we have not received any types of calls or any types of complaints about trees dying in and around those project areas.
I mean, that's the whole idea of the drawdown. That's really what it boils down to is, you know, the impacts on the wetlands, impacts on the trees, shrubs, et cetera. So I thought that might be a little bit of a control, if you will, experimental control. Thank you.
Bill, if I could just pick back up on the PFAS conversation, just sort of anecdotally, there's been a number, and Tom, I think, saw, and he can speak to this too, but there's been a number of looks at PFAS across town. It tends to be pretty universal. So my expectation is whatever's in the groundwater in that vicinity would also probably be reflective of what's in the pond currently in the vicinity, and vice versa. You know what I'm saying? It's not like the groundwater's holding something in the pond's not, because they tend to feed each other. Additionally, and again, I'm happy to be corrected if someone else knows otherwise, to my understanding, right now, the regulations on PFAS is on drinking water. And it's on, you know, drinking water supply particularly, which is why the water system has had to put GAC systems on all its wells. So just as an FYI to those 2 points that are out there, we'll certainly be happy to follow up with DEP as well. But just wanted to add those 2 points to the conversation.
Okay. Well, that's it for my questions now. Thank you.
Thank you. Before let me go to Pete first. Pete.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Here's sort of a question. As we are all aware of here on Cape Cod, of some significant PFAS contamination, again, to us was pointed out to our drinking water supplies. Those and or larger scale, like at the military reserve over there in Sandwich. But in those cases, there existed point source associated with firefighting, whether it's over at the base or at our town of Barnstable water supply area over by the airport, firefighting foams that were sprayed in excess. My question is there any reason to suspect excessive PFAS contamination at this site? Was there existing in close proximity to this project's siting of large PFAS contamination at the surface? That's my first question.
Not that I'm aware of. I don't know, Zed or Kelly, if you've been aware of any, or frankly, Tom, you're on, are aware of any other PFAS sites there. Pete, you identified the ones that are traditional, which are the firefighting foams and things of that nature. But frankly, every septic system contributes to some extent because we use it in our household products. And so it tends to be more universal than just the point sources.
So I guess my point being here is, yeah, sure, there's going to be PFAS there, but it's not going to be very high. It is not at the level that we around the Cape have identified as serious concerns. So I don't see any history or reason of there being a big concern of PFAS at the site, and we're not drinking this water. Secondly, sort of related is that there's no reported measurements of PFAS in groundwater from that region that would alert us to having a potential problem. Is that also correct? And my battery is running low here on my computer, so I'm going to have to plug in. So I'm going to stop talking now and get electricity to my computer. Thank you.
Tom, could I say something to Pete if he's listening?
Yeah, I'm still listening, but boy, my computer gave me a flash.
Is that okay, Tom? May I respond?
Go ahead. Go ahead before I
okay. There is a 4-page letter from, I think his name is Tom Camerari, a hydrologist, and he submitted to the commission this 4-page thing, and it said that there is a well that is very near this site, and that the levels of PFAS were 200, and I don't remember the units, the nano, whatever. but the state limit is 20, and it was like 200. And I cannot confirm. I'm not saying, I mean, I don't know Tom Cammareri. He submitted a letter cautioning us to be aware of this, and he suggested that it was a deep groundwater flow, which I interpreted to mean that from the firefighting site, for example, or maybe in the sewer or what have you, PFAS is lurking very close to this site, and it is what, an order of magnitude higher than the standard. So just what it's worth.
So Tom Cammareri is on this call. He's actually in this meeting, so I'll let him speak for himself in terms of what he meant.
When the time comes, right now we're...
Understood. But the 20 that I believe he's referring to there, and I could be wrong, and if I'm staying corrected, I stand corrected, is the drinking water standard. Because my understanding is that is the standard that's currently published by the state for PFAS, is a drinking water standard.
Right.
That's different than a traditional environmental background standard. Just to be sure we're clear here on what that is.
One thing that you have to be sure, one thing that you want to read is to Tom Camilleri's report in terms of the monitoring data-wise, where they are in terms of the concentrations. In general, the groundwater, the water pond, the ponds have some kind of PFAS in there, depending on the locations. The source of the PFAS could be from septic systems, could be downstreams of a wastewater plant and all that, because the current technology does not remove PFAS in the treatment process. So that basically is, within us. The only thing that we are concerning with from the DEP standpoint is the drinking water standard for the PFAS, that people consume drinking the water and have the effect on that one. So any more comment or questions from the commissioner? If not, I'll go to Tom Camilleri first.
Excuse me, Tom, before you go to the public, we've had a lot of material submitted to us. I'm sure we've all read them. I just hope that we don't just repeat what's already in writing, but maybe elaborate on or add some other thoughts. Otherwise, we'll be here for three days. That's all. Just a thought.
Okay. One thing I just want to mention, this morning when I opened up the file from the Laserfish, there's like 10 different emails from 6 different peoples, and then also, Tom Camilleri also submitted another 2 or 3 emails this morning, and then the Save the Twin Brook has also submitted at least a couple of emails. So there's a whole bunch of email in our Laserfish file. So all that is in there.
And it's all on the record.
Correct. So let me go to Tom Camilleri.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to this issue. Yeah, I'm a hydrogeologist and have been working in this area for a number of years, and this issue came to my attention. And my viewpoint is that things are getting done, projects getting done, and there's some issues. I think they need to be tightened up, and needs to. We need to make sure that the town has done its due diligence for these types of projects. I think first of all, I think this dewatering project I think is closer to impacted wetland areas more so than the Finney's Lane or the other West Main Street one was. So we're right up against the wetland areas here, and I think that was kind of one of my things is that in reviewing the the submittal is that, geez, the stream, the Hyannis Creek area, was not recognized in it. I didn't really see the wetland areas recognized in it. I mean, the attention was drawn towards the Aunt Betty's Pond and the discharge of the pumped water to that water body. But the issue about the drawdown and its impact to the wetlands was apparently not evaluated. So I thought this really was a missing piece to that. The total amount of water being pumped, I guess, over those 9 days was like 12 million gallons of water over those 9 days. And so now if we take the same pump rates and put it over 8 weeks, no, was it 8 weeks?
2 weeks, it sounded like.
No, it was 8 weeks. So that's like 72 million gallons of water that are going to be pumped out and discharged. And I can relate to the wetland scientists' concern of saying, well, if you take 72 million gallons of water and you're trying to put it back somewhere, you really need to be careful about it. And so, it would be nice if we could put it into the stream, but maybe not in the stream, but maybe a setup similar to what we have near Aunt Betty's Pond. But I'm not sure whether there's any available land for that. So that right from the get-go is these wetland areas really need to be identified as potentially being impacted from the drawdown. So the drawdown issue, I had the opportunity to measure the levels there at the Hyannis Creek, and the recovery rate over the number of days after 12 million gallons of water were taken out, there was a drawdown of 1.5 feet almost, or 1.4 feet beneath the Hyannis Creek there at Mitchell's Way. And as I was measuring the recovery after it was shut down, the water came back into that stream about 9 days after my measurements. So it was impacted by the drawdown, and it's consistent with the GZA calculated drawdowns, but the missing part in the submittal was, hey, there's a wetland areas that are going to be impacted. So I thought that the monitoring was inadequate for that. It would be an interest in tonight's presentation if you had some data on the monitoring that you did do for the 9 days to say what happened. But I think so the monitoring program needs to be measuring Hyannis Creek, needs to be measuring those that area of wetlands up to the one that you identified, and I think it really should have a number of wells, and there's a couple of them that are existing. There's that C5 well that's right there, and it's you could put a pressure transducer in it. It's not going to cost you any labor to monitor water levels in this area. And the question of what your threshold is and what your concern of impact, that you folks will need to figure that out. So if there's running water in the stream and it's going to be pumped dry, it's going to be pumped dry for 8 weeks. You need to deal with figure that out. But the thing is that we can't have these issues ignored. They are facts of impact of drawdown that will be happening on the wetland system, and it's just event or a project moving forward, that doing something like this really needs to monitor these things. We talked a little bit about PFAS, and could I answer the PFAS question? Because I know you're anxious for that.
That's my point.
And then I'm going to make it really short, okay? Measuring the PFAS in 21 ponds across the town, the highest concentrations were in the Hyannis Creek and Aunt Betty's Pond. The source of PFAS, as we understand it, is from secondary impacts from these major PFAS sources at the Fire Training Academy and the airport that get into the pumping wells, that get distributed and go into the wastewater treatment plant as well as area septic systems. So when we measure 200 nanogram per liter in Aunt Betty's Pond and Hyannis Creek, these are really high concentrations. So I think Rob said, well, there's already these high concentrations in Aunt Betty's Pond, so maybe it doesn't make any difference. The thing is it's not DPW's call. It's not town manager's call. It's the call that needs to be made under the regulations by an LSP, and to do that, you really need to have a pre-sample from that area, the wells that are going to be pumped. Set them to be pumped. Take a background sample of PFAS from that, so that we can figure out what that is in that area. I suspect because of the deep flow from the treatment plant primarily and the septic systems, that it's going to be it's going to be high. So then the question is what will an LSP say about that? Now, we've talked about drinking water, but the regulations are don't allow concentrations of over the GW1 limit, or the 20 parts per trillion in a potentially productive aquifer, which is what the Cape Cod Peninsula is. So it's not just drinking water, it's potentially productive aquifer threshold that needs to be recognized, and we need to have LSP opinion about that, and seeking DEP concurrence as well. So those are my things: recognition of Hyannis Creek, monitoring of Hyannis Creek and the wells, pre-operational sampling of PFAS in the pumping system, and LSP opinion and DEP concurrence would be good to have.
Thank you, Tom. Before I go to the public for further comment, I just have a couple of questions for the consultant. Number one, on the GCA report, it's kind of mentioning about the 900 gallons per minute flow rate. And then subsequently in the couple of sentences below that, it's kind of mentioning that, maybe the pump rate could be 30% higher. What is the sense of that?
So I think when they put the wells in, they put 3 pumps in one pump in each of the wells, and they had a little bit of a hard time trying to lower that groundwater table. So they ended up adding pumps, and altogether they're measured about 900 gallons per minute total discharge from the 3 wells.
But from the previous test run that we had back in July, I think there was some issues in terms of getting the flow rate, a correct flow rate. I just want to make sure that, if we do this, we have to make sure that we have a proper measurement on the flow rate from those 3 wells.
So there'll be a flow meter installed at the discharge header from the 3 wells before it goes into the frac tank.
Okay. The other thing on terms of the monitoring location number 4, previously we kind of marked it as like maybe 2 feet from the white post on the channel next to the parking lot. I just want to mention that that is the same criteria from the previous run that we should be holding as well. So the other things too, can you confirm how long is the dewatering? You mentioned about 2 weeks. Is it 2 weeks or 8 weeks? 8 weeks is overall construction period, right?
8 weeks is the construction activity associated with excavating, dewatering, excavating, setting the structures, and backfilling.
So how long is the dewatering that you're talking about? 2 weeks?
So the dewatering is going to alternate between the wet well being the deepest structure for the pump station.
Okay.
And once the structure is set and tested, they start backfilling and they go up to the next level, which is the gravity manhole adjacent to the wet well. And that's about 7 feet higher, or maybe 7 feet shallower than the wet well. And that is anticipated to take, there's a lot of these activities will be happening simultaneously. So overall, I think the duration is about 8 weeks.
Okay.
But then again, I mean, obviously this is a anticipated schedule. It all depends on, you know, excavation, setting the supportive excavation system, dewatering, and then backfilling and testing. So this is what we got out of the contractor as an estimated, you know, a duration for those activities, and that's what we carried in here.
One of the items that we talked about previously was to maybe to have the contractor working longer hours, trying to reduce the dewatering process. So, you know, the town should maybe consider that as possible. I'm trying to reduce the dewatering process and minimize any impacts possible.
We haven't talked to the contractor on this, but I'm sure that we're behind schedule now. That would be willing to listen.
Okay, thank you. Let me go to the public. Who wants to go first?
Hold a second, Tom. As a commissioner, can I?
Sure, go ahead.
Yes. So again, I'm confused about the length and of pumping. So we have a cone of depression. You have to lower the water table so you can in the direct vicinity of your excavated hole, so you can seal that all up. So you've got this cone of depression that you're pumping out of, 3 pumps. Now at 3 pumps going full bore, that's like 900 gallons per minute. Now you're not doing that for 8 straight weeks. I'm almost certain of that, because as soon as you get your setup in the deepest part there, you're turning some of these wells off. So could you please clarify? We're not talking about 72 million gallons of water over 8 weeks. Am I correct on that understanding?
So the 3 wells will be going at the same time to reach the subgrade of the wet well, correct? And then once that's done, I guess it all remains to be seen if 1 pump could be shut off, 2 pumps could be shut off, to see what is the next structure, what is that going to require to lower that groundwater table below the gravity manhole or below the valve vault. You know, again, the 3 pumps will be ongoing at the same time to set the wet well in there. And as we backfill and go a little bit higher, that the wells could be reduced to 2, could be reduced to 1, based on how much that well could be, you know, will be handling the groundwater there.
Well, I'm almost certain. Again, I'm not a hydrogeologist, but you know, you've got water seeping in from around the various land. But it's sort of seeping at a rate depending on the gradient of your water line there. So the highest pump rate has to happen. Again, I think I understand this. The highest pump rate has to happen for your deepest hole that you need to get dry. Am I correct on that?
Correct.
Okay, so now you start backfilling. I cannot imagine that you have to continue pumping at 900 because you're not having the same slope of your water input there. So you obviously have to be lessening your pumping there as you get higher and higher in elevation. Am I correct on that?
That is most likely true, correct.
So, and an extreme estimate of 72 million gallons pumped out of that for 8 weeks seems very unreasonable to me.
So to that point, I think the wet well, again, would be the 3 wells operating at the same time to produce approximately 900 gallons a minute. And we say in this activity would be about a week to establish subgrade, install the structure, test it, and then it will be another week to backfill it. And as you backfill, to your point, that pumping rate will be reduced as you go on higher and higher. How much will it be reduced? I don't really know. I don't think the document that GZA submitted highlights that. I think it has to be a situation where we could assume 2 pumps running, or maybe best case scenario would be only 1 pump running. And then by the time you reach, keep in mind, groundwater was at 4 feet below grade. And today it was about 5'10" or maybe 6 feet below grade. So there is some active pumping that needs to happen to be able to set those 2 structures in place.
Of course, but my point being is that this hugely high estimate is unreasonable.
That is correct.
Thank you.
As your groundwater moving up, you are reducing your pumping rate. So, from my understanding, this is only my guessing, it could be 2 pumps from each well instead of 3 pumps, and then gradually.
Is the pump looking in here?
Who want to go first? Angela, let me give you.
Thank you. My name is Angela Rutzik, and as co-president of Save Twin Brooks, I want to express our concerns about the dewatering activities, of course, we've all been talking about, and groundwater discharge at the site, because we believe it really does pose serious and potentially irreversible harm to our wetlands, groundwater levels, and surface waters, especially on Betty's Pond and Stewart's Creek, which eventually, as you know, flows into the ocean. The applicant has acknowledged that this project is adjacent to bordering vegetated wetlands and land underwater. Although it claims to be a limited project, the applicant also admits to discharging treated groundwater directly into Aunt Betty's Pond, which by law constitutes an alteration to land underwater, despite assurances of no permanent impacts. Damage to local wildlife in upstream wetlands has already been observed. I know you said that you didn't see anything, but we have seen it. We have been there. It's particularly at Betty's Pond and Hyannis Creek. And as John Abadili and Tom Cabareri have said, PFAS levels at Hyannis Pond and Hyannis Creek should be reviewed by a licensed professional. That analysis is missing from the NOI. So what we'd like to request here is clear answers tonight, well, not so much tonight, but from the commission and the DEP to the following. Is Aunt Betty's Pond located in a flood zone? Is it the headwater of Stewart's Creek, which our mission is to preserve and to protect? Will continued dewatering increase the overflow from the pond into the drainage system as have occurred in July and August? And then what happens to the wildlife upstream, particularly near 32 Pleasant Hill Lane? Can the pump water be retained and recharged, which I think we just talked about, into nearby wetlands instead of being lost? Our wetlands, wildlife, and water supply, I cannot express. They cannot be protected with half measures and vague assurances. The Commission has both legal and moral obligations to ensure full compliance with the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act. Therefore, we respectfully request tonight that the entire construction project not move forward and an order of conditions not be granted until these questions are answered. Thank you for your being able to speak.
Thank you. Brian Hughes.
Yes, good evening. My name is Brian Hughes, and as Vice President of Save Twin Brooks, Inc., I am here today to raise urgent concerns about the NOI filed for 268 Stevens Street and 45 Mitchell's Way. We urge the Commission to require a groundwater recharge system to reinject treated water back into the local ecosystem. This practice is standard in sensitive areas and helps maintain the water table and reduce stress on the wetlands. Projects in cities like Seattle have used it successfully to protect nearby water resources during major construction. The applicant's current mitigation, watching for plant damage or a 4-inch water drop, is totally insufficient. There are procedural and technical deficiencies with this filing. The site plan in Appendix G is hand-drawn, unstamped, and not to scale. Professionally prepared wetland delineation is legally required. INS Brook may be misclassified. If it is perennial, your butter notification was inadequate and non-compliant. The GZA dewatering plan states the system should be reevaluated if groundwater removal fails. And yet in July, after millions of gallons of water were pumped, the site was still unstable. That's a red flag. Legal and environmental risks. Half of the site at 45 Mitchell's Way appears to lie in a flood zone. Discharge in Aunt Betty's Pond, then to Stewart's Creek in the ocean, means we're losing groundwater from our ecosystem. Excuse me. Further, the water may contain regulated contaminants, PFAS, and should be reviewed by a licensed site professional, and that analysis is missing from the NOI. In conclusion, we respectfully request the continuation of this hearing until the following completed: full groundwater recharge plan, LSP and DEP review of the discharge, certified stamped wetlands mapping, complete reassessment of the stream classification, and formal responses to all previous public comments. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Next one is, how do you pronounce it? Millet? Unmute yourself, please.
Hi, Minette. My name is Minette Basil. Thank you, commissioners. This is very informative. I have property within Harbor Village at 160 Marsden Avenue. This property consists of 19 property owners with a HOA, homeowner association, and we also on the property have a pump station, a sewer pump station. It's a small, well-designed building that the Department of Public Works, I must compliment them. They are always out there making sure everything is perfect. It looks very clean when you go inside. And so that is operational. It does provide sewer for Harbor Village and going north along Greenwood Avenue and properties in that area. The property of 17 acres has wetlands all along the north side of the property and on the east side that flows into the pond that flows out to the ocean. We have over the years seen increased problems with phlagmites and other invasive species coming into this area. It used to be you could put a little rowboat out on our property and row around the pond. No more, no more. This is of great concern. I have been asked to represent the Property Owners Association in this matter. This is totally not my area of expertise, so you'll forgive me for my lack of knowledge. As you are well aware, the Keys Beach area was closed multiple times this summer. This is right near our property, and the Cape Cod Times had a very interesting article. It might have been in the Boston Globe, talking about Cape Cod beaches, with Keys Beach being the one beach that was one of the worst in terms of contaminants. There are a lot of people that come here to vacation with rentals all around us and property owners. And this is of grave concern to a lot of people, particularly the ones in our little 19-unit complex. So I don't understand exactly the runoff that will be coming, not as I understand it now, not through Betty's Pond for this new pump station, but coming south toward our property, and how that, I'm having a hard time understanding that, and maybe I need to talk to somebody off camera. That lot where the pump station is going was a car lot for many years. I gotta believe that with car tires and everything running in and out of that property, there would be a lot of contaminants on the property itself. So I'm just here to express grave concern for all of us as property owners, and we want to be partners in trying to come to a solution. The other thing is I did walk down Pleasant Way with several folks from Twin Brooks, Safe Twin Brooks, and it was staggering to see that the wetlands that were there were gone, basically. The residents had indicated they could kayak in that area with water coming up to above their thighs, and now it's no longer. It's gone. So this is very concerning. And Aunt Betty's Pond, as you well know, is one of the most polluted, if not the most polluted pond on Cape Cod. So we are surrounded by all these contaminating factors. The culvert that goes out to the ocean is too small and doesn't allow the proper flow of water in and out. So please, whatever you can do to reduce this contaminating disaster and restore our wetlands back, we would be most grateful. Thank you.
Thank you. Roberta? Please unmute yourself.
Hi. Lisa DeLuz here.
No, Roberta. I'm calling Roberta first.
Roberta didn't answer.
She's talking, but unmute yourself, Roberta.
I don't know about you.
We can't hear you. Lisa, you want to say something?
I do. I want to say that this whole thing is heartbreaking and pretty much dumb. Whoever decided to build on top of wetlands was just plain dumb. There were other places to build. You've sucked out this beautiful wetland that I grew up with. There was everything back here. I'm out there putting bowls of water for the birds because there's no damn water. It's insane. It's insensitive, and parts of it are illegal.
Thank you.
Fix it.
Who else want to speak as far as Channel 18?
If anyone else would like to speak, can you raise your virtual hand? Juliet?
Yes, I would like to speak.
Go ahead, Juliet.
All right. Some of the things I had to discuss have already been addressed, and I appreciate everyone's contribution to this. I guess I would like to point out that it was stated earlier that there was no impact. We all know that that's just not true. You know, the wetland was down multiple feet. I went there. I saw it. You could see the destruction, and it has not recovered. We are in a drought right now, which I get is making it good timing to dewater, but also having serious impact on the ecosystem that needs to be addressed. There's no mitigation plan. Like where is the plan to repair this ecosystem that is already potentially permanently damaged? Like, I have not seen any signs of this. Again, the differentiation between the PFAS contaminated Stewart Creek and Aunt Betty's Pond in our drinking water is frankly ridiculous. We live on a sole source aquifer. The water is the water. And there may be gradients and there may be different movements based on, ground structures. But eventually this all boils down to, it's all our water. It's all water. And the fresh water it's fragile, and we need to protect it. And we need to do everything properly. I would also like to mention for the record that there was a permit hung on the fence for this dewatering, and that was not the permit for that. So I would hope that going forward that this is properly permitted at the very least. And then also, I know that this is, secondary to the topic at hand, but is this housing project that we're doing all this for still in the proposal? Because right now the town of Barnstable is being sued because of there's a claim that the sewage treatment plant is currently discharging water with nitrogen levels that exceeds the legal limit. And we're doing all of this environmental destruction to add more sewage to a system that is potentially already overburdened. And, you know, I know that this is probably not the place for that and the time, but I wanted to just put it out there. And again, we're talking at 900 gallons per minute. We're looking at 9,408,000 gallons a day. I mean, in a week. And we're talking about pumping for 2 weeks. So we're talking about 19 million gallons minimum that we're removing from this fragile ecosystem that doesn't, even in a static point, does it even contain that much? Like, we might pump this thing dry. And she mentioned earlier, the lady from Apex, that if it goes below 4 inches at the wetland, that the project stops. Well, I don't understand that. So, like, if you need to remove the water in order to get the wells set up, and you go down and you will notice the wetlands going down over 4 inches, which it did, and then you stop, you're letting the wetland recover, but that water's flowing. It's coming down through the creek into this area and then continues onward past this area. So I don't understand how that works. I know I'm not a hydrologist, but it seems to me that this project would then, by that criteria, have to constantly be stopped, and it's going to drag on a lot more than 8 weeks in that case. And that's I'm done. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Please keep your comment within these projects and minimize, because we have a lot of people on here and we don't want to go into 11 o'clock tonight. Eric.
May I make a quick comment? Oh, I'll go after Eric.
Yeah.
Roberta, go ahead. I think Roberta and Maria have tried to speak several times.
Okay, I'm sorry, I couldn't unmute. The hydrologist made some very important comments, and I'm grateful Mr. Lee and the commission, Conservation Commission, heard him. I don't understand why. First of all, before to me, it appears my name's Roberta Mock. I live on 80 Greenwood Avenue. It affects me as well. I'm right, on the creek. What I don't understand is when we make a mistake of choosing the location, why can't we admit the mistake that this is not the right location for a pump station? Why are we so hell-bent on putting that pump station right on Stewart's Creek? There has to be a better location. Can they consider that? What reason will they not consider another location? Number two, from what I've learned, is that the Cape Cod Conservation Commission, it's the commission's duty to enforce order. An enforcement order, I mean, the law was violated, and I don't want to be hard on a DPW, but I think this sets precedent, and it needs to be addressed. Before we move on, I think that there should be, the dewatering was not done properly. The creek was ignored, and that needs to be addressed. I don't think this is the right location for this project. I don't know what else to say other than I'll keep it short and just say that I really don't believe this is the right location for the pump station. I think they've made a mistake. And I think that they should be enforced and penalized so that this doesn't happen anymore. We're done. We're tired of being roadkill here in our neighborhood, if you will. Thank you.
Thank you. Eric?
Yes, Mr. Lee, you seem confused by the letters that were submitted. Did you get an opportunity to read my request for an enforcement order?
I read all the comments.
Did you consider my request for an enforcement order?
No, because previously, in the previous pumping, dewatering, it was discussed with the commissioner, administrator, and myself, and we authorized that to go ahead with that. So I don't see any enforcement issue on the previous pumping.
Well, I must respectfully disagree because the Mass DEP regional director stated otherwise. The pumping was not halted out of an abundance of caution. The previous pumping was halted because the state regional office called you, right?
No.
And asked you to stop.
No. I mean, we agree to disagree, but I mean, make your comment, please.
Okay. I'm concerned that this project is heavily conflicted. There are a number of influencers on this committee who have worked for the town, have worked for the DPW, and are not in a position to consider this project honestly and openly. And Mr. Lee, I do think you need to recuse yourself. I don't see that you filed any disclosure regarding potential conflicts. But we do know your firm. It's a prominent firm. You've recently done work on the long-term plan for the town. You've done work at the airport. You've done work on the wastewater treatment plant.
Eric, please don't make all those accusations, because
Not an accusation, it's an observation.
I don't have any conflict of interest in this application here. Okay, please make your comment on these projects.
Okay, then we also have a conservation administrator who's married to the supervisor for the Mosquito Control Board, whose letter was used to move forward with, yes, you want to comment on that?
Eric, please keep your comment to the project itself and not attacking any other people's.
I'm not attacking anyone, sir. I'm making observations about conflicts, which is my legal right. Further, given these conflicts and given the slapstick methods that we use in the first dewatering, my enforcement order request included a request that a third-party administrator be hired by the town at the town's expense to properly evaluate some of the concerns raised by the hydrologist and by the residents. We do not have confidence that the DPW is going to handle this. I was on site when it was first observed that the wetlands at 32 Pleasant Hill was being drawn down. Jeff DeLuce called me and said, Eric, get over here. And I live about 5 minutes away. I hopped in the car, went over there. We engaged the DPW supervisors, who we brought them up to the wetlands. They were completely unaware of the wetlands. They had no procedures in place to stop the pumping. They couldn't reach anyone, right? The pumping continued unabated for another 72 hours, okay, until we reached out to the president of the Barnstable Town Council, who called the town manager to exert pressure on the DPW to stop pumping. But it wasn't until the regional director of the Mass DEP reached out that the pumping was actually halted. So we do not have confidence in the DPW to self-regulate this project. We just don't have confidence. We've seen them fail. So the enforcement order, which you should not comment on because you should recuse yourself, the enforcement order we have requested asks for a third-party administrator.
If you want to make any comment, keep on this project alone and don't accuse anybody anything, okay?
I'm not accused. I'm stating the fact that we don't have confidence in the DPW to self-regulate this project, which is what they're proposing, right? They use all their contractors, all their subcontractors. They all work for the DPW. They're not going to do what the residents say. They're going to do what their boss says. And their boss is DPW, right? So we need to have an independent monitoring plan prepared. We need to properly evaluate how much damage was actually done. I mean, you're going to minimize the damage that was actually done, but there's significant damage up there, okay? That damage needs to be evaluated. And if you resume pumping, there needs to be someone qualified who's familiar with the area, that has the skills necessary to shut down the DPW if this problem persists. So that's what we're asking.
Thank you. Thank you for your comment, Eric.
Thank you, sir.
Pete.
Yes, thank you. I have about 4 or 5 comments that I'd like to be asking the consultants and my fellow commissioners. And they are actually science related. Again, I am a scientist with a PhD in coastal water quality. Consultants, I have a series of questions. Do wetlands survive seasonal droughts?
The short answer is yes.
Of course they do. Of course they do. It happens normally else every summer, but on occasions, as we have right now under serious drought, yeah, we are seeing this summer extraordinary drought here on the Cape. And you'll even get some fish kills in some of our streams because of this. You see that. So it is a fact that wetlands are not necessarily wet year round. They have evolved to survive seasonal droughts and sometimes on occasion excessive droughts. Yes, they could be knocked back and exhibit what looks like to be severe damage during our excessive drought that's happening right now around the Cape, not just here at this site. Second question for consultants. Is the drawdown of groundwater for the placement of this pump station temporary? The simple answer?
Yes.
Yes, it's temporary. And are the surface water flows in this area, are they year-round water flows, or are they also temporary, seasonal?
Yes, intermittent features.
Yes, they're intermediate.
Year-round flow. Year-round flow. I live on the pond.
Actually, I'm talking to the consultants, please.
Pete, this is public comment time.
No.
Yes, it is, sir.
Tom, will you please make sure that the public allows me to speak?
This is Pete's time. Go ahead.
So these are intermittent streams, and during severe droughts, they go dry. They probably don't have any fish in them. Is that correct, consultants? They have no fish.
I haven't done a fisheries assessment of the streams, but the intermittent flow would be groundwater fed a portion of the year, not the
And so it would preclude a fish population, making them consistent intermittent streams. Okay, now on to hopefully some real positive stuff about this pump station. Putting 45 homes on a Seward system will improve the water quality of Stewart's Creek. You won't have the nitrogen from the septic tanks entering this watershed. The concern about beaches being contaminated and closed. Beaches are closed due to bacterial contamination and or toxic algal blooms. I'm almost positive that's how the state closes beaches. Those are the 2 big reasons for that. Well, in fact, excess nitrogen, of which a Seward system lessens, excess nitrogen associated with septic tanks can contribute to toxic algal blooms and therefore be a contributory factor to the closing of beaches. So I think I am arguing as a scientist here to my fellow commissioners that you're going to get an improved water quality with this pump station and putting these 45 homes on a Seward system. Thank you.
Thank you, Pete.
May I please just say one more thing because I have to leave soon? I would just like to address Pete's comments just now that, first of all, the water is not intermittent. The National Registry has it as permanent. The residents in the area who've lived there for decades and decades testify that it's permanent. It is not intermittent. Secondly, droughts do not disappear 9.5 million gallons in a week. Okay, that's going to have more impact than a natural drought. Thirdly, excess nitrogen is the cause of beach closures. And yes, septic tanks cause that. But right now, the town is being sued because the treated water from the sewage treatment plant, they're claiming, has excess nitrogen. So, you know, your points are not really, they're moot. Thank you. I got to go.
Thank you. Thank you. John?
Can I address, Tom, it's Rob Steen, can I address the comment made about the nitrogen plant and being sued?
Yeah, go ahead, Rob.
Yeah, so just to be clear on this, the town is not being sued because it is not treating the wastewater to the standard. So just so everyone's aware, the state standard for the wastewater treatment plant is to treat nitrogen at 10 milligrams per liter. The plant currently achieves 6 milligrams per liter, less than the 10 that we're required to do. We're in the process of doing an upgrade to get that to 3. What the suit is about is that the Conservation Law Foundation is suing the town because it feels like the groundwater discharge permit that we get from the state shouldn't be the permitting mechanism that we're permitted under. They feel we should be permitted under a NIPD's discharge permit from the EPA. Just so everybody's aware, we've tried. We talked to the EPA. They won't give us one because they say you're permitted under a groundwater discharge permit from your DEP. So just, yes, we are being sued, but let's be clear what that's about. It's not because the plant doesn't have the ability to treat nitrogen or is not treating nitrogen appropriately. It's being sued because of a permitting disagreement in terms of should we be under a NIPD's permit or should we be under a groundwater discharge permit? And just for reference, since we're in the conversation, the town has no say in that. We're just having to kind of go through those processes until it gets decided which is the right regulatory authority for us.
Thank you, Rob.
Thank you.
John?
Thank you, Tom. I'd like to go back to some specific questions. But before I do that, I just want to raise a comment Mr. Schwab made about our conservation administrator, and that he should recuse himself, or we should get somebody else in. I've worked with the administrator for a large number of years. I probably spent 3 or 4 hours over the last few weeks discussing with Ed this project. He took the time to walk me through it thoroughly today, gave me the pros and the cons. I think, sir, you're way, way, way off base to think that in fact Ed is in any way biased. That's my opinion. I would like to ask a question of the consultants. This issue of the Hyannis Creek. Now, let me back up. Ask a preliminary. My understanding is that this pump, the location of the pump, which is out of our jurisdiction, is really the only alternative that you have given this treatment. Is that correct? It must be placed where it is. Is that correct or not correct understanding?
Are we talking about the pumps or the discharge location?
No, the pump station.
The pump stations.
Which is out of our jurisdiction, but my question is, are there alternatives for this pump station? Viable alternatives, or is this where it has to go?
I think I'm going to defer to Rob or Mike on this one.
So I'll take a shot at that, John. So pump stations, as you know, have to go to the lowest area. You know, there's a geography aspect to that, a topography aspect to that. It is. We also need to be on town property, obviously. And so the town property in the area, if you look at it, as an example, an alternative would be the 45 way that we are actually doing the discharge on. That's even closer to a pond or something of that nature. And again, this pump station was envisioned to serve a new Hawk proposal or a new Hawk property that's on the old car lot site and stuff. So that's why it is there.
Okay. All right. I'd like to go to a question I don't understand. I'm not sure which speaker, forgive me, but I think it was Tom, brought up the issue of Hyannis Creek. None of our monitoring is that's new to me. I had not heard that Hyannis Creek would be impacted upon by this possibly. Is that right or wrong? And does the monitoring make sure that would be included in the monitoring reports? Can somebody answer that?
Zayed, you got this?
Yeah, so The four locations that we highlighted, it's the wetland that is, let me see if I could share my screen here. I could maybe go back to the presentation. Kelly.
I can share for you, yeah. Just tell me what slide you need.
Thank you. Yeah, if you don't mind going to the to the figure, there you go.
No, the figure, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm back. This one?
Yeah, that one. Yeah. So the monitoring point highlighted in red, and then the top one at the top of the screen, this is where the upland wetland there. And the second one down in the middle of the figure, if you will, that's the that's on Betty's Pond at the discharge location. A little one further down, the third one, that's the culvert across at North Street. And then the last one, the bottom one, is Stewart's Creek.
Okay. Yeah, and my understanding is that there are trigger points on that. If they hit certain trigger points, certain actions must be taken. Is that correct?
Correct.
Ed, a question for you. You've reviewed these, you and your staff and Grady, et cetera, reviewed these very carefully. Are these monitoring stations and the trigger points satisfactory to you, Ed, and to the staff at Conservation?
So we have gone out with the consultants and DPW to look at the sites. Each of these monitoring points, we've been to every last one of them. The triggers seem sufficient. The 4 inches of change that would trigger increased monitoring. So we would be proposing to go from twice daily monitoring to four times daily monitoring. If the rise and fall hits 7 inches or more, then the pumps would be shut off immediately. And I believe that's also triggers the point at number 3, which is where basically where the water, what is at the top of the culvert, I believe. If somebody can correct me if I'm wrong there. And then number 4, monitoring 4 is on the south side of North Street, and that again is it's a horizontal marker. So if the spread spread of the creek of the discharge area would be wider than or hit that mark again. The pumps would be shut down again. So I think those are sufficient.
Okay. Thank you. Another question I'd like to ask, some comment was made about, well, why don't we just, it goes through the what do you call, frac station, and it goes into a filtering bag, and then it's discharged through a couple of pipes into the spread out across that buffer zone and then down to the pond. Somebody said, well, there's a stream out there. Why don't we just pump it directly into the stream? My understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ed, is that in fact that was looked at and it was determined that that would environmentally be more damaging than the current proposal. Is that correct?
No.
Yes, that was one of the considerations. Certainly, putting that level of water into the stream would cause scour, no matter what you tried to do to prevent that. You would just have the volume of water would certainly promote scour and could severely damage the stream. It would also be just a practical ability to force that much water through a culvert that is running under Mitchell's Way. So it would be a difficult thing to put that through that. So, you can only fit so much water through a culvert of any given size. So.
Okay, I thought that alternative was considered and rejected as being worse from an environmental point of view. Thank you. I thought that was my understanding as well. The damage, and again, Mr. Schwab talked about issuing an enforcement order, but any damage to the buffers, when I was walking it today, I didn't see anything on the buffer zone at all. In fact, it's all grown back. Was there any prolonged damage from that initial water dewatering that you're aware of, or has we've seen good grow back and correction by the act of nature?
What was that to me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So the buffer actually is still very very lush. It has plenty of vegetation throughout. The area where the water was spilling over certainly is. We are starting to see the initial stages of grow back of the clethra there. So yeah, it's actually a very well protected buffer, and it we didn't notice any any real damage to the buffer at all. So.
Thank you. And one final question. There was some issues raised in the many emails and letters that I read and studied, one of which was questioning the wetland delineation. Now, I believe that was redone recently. Is that correct? And are we satisfied with the latest wetland delineation that was submitted to us?
It was redone, and I am in concurrence with the delineation. They used the proper methodology, and I would agree with the line.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Bill?
Yeah, I'd like to, we keep talking about, is this an intermittent stream or is it not an intermittent stream? And I think it's a matter of definition. I think there's some misunderstanding or what have you. And before I say what I'm going to say, I want to say that I was the water rights specialist for Northern California for 8 years as part of my job. I moved into another more senior position later. But before that, I was in consulting, and my primary bread and butter was in-stream flow studies for rivers. I'm a stream flow gauger. I'm a person who deals with stream flows. That's my thing. That's what my career ended up doing for like 30 years. An intermittent stream basically stops flowing periodically, but an intermittent stream can have pools in it. And you can have surface water in an intermittent stream. Oh, look, there's water, but it's not one continual stream. I have been to this site, I want to say last week and maybe the week before, long after Tom Cambareri's data shows that the groundwater had completely recovered. I mean, long recovered. And at the Hyannis Creek crossing, it's an intermittent stream. It just is. I'm telling you guys, it's an intermittent stream. Now, you can also get into little definitions like, well, it only is an intermittent, if it's a really extreme drought, it doesn't count. But it's definitely not flowing. It's an intermittent stream. Now it is not flowing. But there is surface water, and there are little pools in it. So I think it's a matter of definition as to, and I think you need to understand that. I want to applaud Pete Sampu as people are trying to figure out what is this all about? Wow, what went down in that meeting? What Pete said 12 minutes ago, whatever it was. Listen, play that back. I think he was right on the money. I know somebody rebuffed that, but I think from a purely science standpoint, wetlands do dry out, wetlands do recover. And I would say that claims that, there's been significant damage, passionate, it's been terrible. Mr. Schwab asserts terrible, significant damage. And all I can say is, as a scientist, what evidence is there that there was significant damage? In fact, the drought is going to so confuse any effort to try to identify significant damage from that drawdown. There's no evidence of that. And to assert that is not a good thing.
May I speak now, sir?
I have another point.
You've mentioned my name several times.
Not right now.
You've mentioned my name several times, and I'm allowed to respond. Am I
I
not?
mentioned it the single
Right now.
time.
Yes, and
But
Mr. Stamper did also.
Let me just, please, Eric, I have one other point, and that is that there is a lot of concern on the part of the neighborhood concerning why in our neighborhood? How come our neighborhood? Wow, why are we being picked on? Why? This is a bad site. Go someplace else. And it is about alternatives analysis. And the alternatives analysis, I'm just going to just plain speak here. You got a PowerPoint. We read it, and I'm thinking, what you really got to.
Bill, somebody's talking over you.
What's stop?
So the location.
They will finish it.
The location. What we were just talking about a minute ago. It's about needing to have a site which is relatively near where you're going to be getting the sewage, and it has to be at a low elevation. You've got to have the sewage drift downstream out of the houses, apartments, or what have you, and then it gets pumped. And so you have to be at a lower ground elevation. There aren't a lot of locations. And I think that just trying to understand, well, where would you put it? It's like there really doesn't seem to me to be a reasonable alternative. And I think that needed to be stated perhaps a little more simply. That, you need to be downstream, and if you're down, you're going to be close to the wetlands. Down, it's anyhow. Eric, you wanted to say something?
Yes, we do not have confidence that the DPW can self-regulate this project. We are asking respectfully, through a request for an enforcement order, that you exercise your authority to condition an independent evaluation of the damage to the area. Now, I understand that there's a strong desire to believe that the area is not damaged, and there's a strong desire to believe that it will recharge, and we share your hopes and dreams. But we would prefer an independent analysis, and we would prefer an independent supervision. That's what we're asking for. We put it in writing. We ask that you respond to that request.
Thank you, Eric. Maria?
Hi, good evening, everyone. How are you? As everyone else is on this side of the stream, it is very concerning. My friend worked for the EPA. Massachusetts is a water treatment, head of water in Florida, and she pulled up a map. It's on the National Registry. It says a perennial stream. When you did the other dewaterings, someone else mentioned, were there any ponds near any of those dewaterings? I mean, were there bodies of water that were affected? And I understand that you've done dewatering before, but were any of them as close? And did they dry up streams from Skating Rink Road all the way to the ocean? They're all the streams are dry. I've lived on Aunt Betty's Pond for 30 years. And there's always a flow. So I'm not really sure where you say it gets dry, because the water's always moving. And in the wintertime, you can tell because it doesn't freeze in that spot. And there has been river otter and ducks and all kinds of things there. So I don't know when it's not flowing. I think I would have even a bigger mosquito problem if it stopped flowing, because the water has to move. Damage, the water is down significantly from the edge of my property. I'd say about 15 feet. So where I took a picture, it's all the muck. And if this is the highest level of PFAS, there are some serious issues that that arise when PFAS dry, contamination to the dust in the air. So there's going to be an issue at some point if the water and the air, all this dries up. We've got contamination of dust in the air as the pond dries. The sediment, which acts as a reservoir for PFAS, is exposed to the air. One can then carry this contaminated dust over long distances, my house, my grandchildren, the trampoline, anybody else that lives close by, exposing nearby remote communities in inhalation risk. Contaminated soil. I have a company coming on next Wednesday to test my soil to see if the contaminants of PFAS are in my soil. I'm just a couple feet off. The plants, sure, the plants look great. The water is still damp. It isn't completely dry. So the plants have been there for many, many years. So they've got deep roots. So they're not gonna die right now. I've been out in Arizona. The trees are still alive out there, and it hasn't rained out there since like June. They're still alive, but they're beginning to die. They're not gonna die right away. There's some moisture there. I don't understand what. What?
Finish your comment quick.
Why do I have to be quick? I'm tired too. I just don't understand the name of the fish. I mean, there's no flow right now. There's no water going into the pond, which means there's no water going out of the pond, where is your, there might be some oxygen that's still in the water, but at some point you're going to keep pulling the water out. It just doesn't make any sense to me that there isn't not any damage that you see. I've asked you to come down and look on my property, but you didn't want to do that. I don't know who else is seeing what. You emptied the water into the pond. They didn't even clean it. They just dumped the water and the trash from the homeless, from the shelters that were there, the stuff. All the trash just went right into the water. You didn't even have the decency to clean it. You just dumped the water.
This is not pertinent, Tom, to our project.
Well, it is, because you're dumping the water into the pond. You're taking it out of the ground. Water goes right into the pond. I heard the water flowing. I could see it just flowing off, just down the edge of the stream, right, the land, right into the pond. It has everything to do with this. What do you mean doesn't have anything to do with this? You can see the muck in the pond starting to rise up because the water's so low. In the PFAS, like I said, I'm having someone coming over here to do the testing on my property, because now I have the concerns if you don't recover, like you say, and there are times when it doesn't recover, and you know this. It's not like there's a good chance, there's a 50-50 chance. And an independent study would be kind of nice, because if it doesn't fill in at a certain time, say next summer, and we still have drying issues, what happens when that PFAS start to dry up and start blowing around? What are you going to do then? Can you guarantee? You can't guarantee anything.
Tom, I would also like to mention that there should be a 3-minute limit on individuals speaking. Thank you.
Oh, my Lord.
Thank you. Are you all set, Maria?
There are a lot of health risks. There are a lot of health risks. I think that you should do some independent study. I don't see, and if they didn't understand what they were pumping out, they should have learned and looked to see where it was going to affect all the way down to the skating rink road, because all of those ponds are all now dry. And yes, and you have animals that are looking for water. I've had someone say that there's skunks looking for water. There's nowhere to drink all the way down. There's no water at all. At all in any of those streams.
Thank you. Angela, you raised your hand before.
Yeah, I'm just trying to bring us back to what we were doing here tonight, because I do understand the emotions and all the feelings from the public comment. The project description, my question is to the town. We've synthesized it. We've had a couple weeks to do it. I've done more research and classes on this than I want to share. And I felt like the project description had some questions, and tonight the alternative analysis was given, and I appreciate that, and I want to thank the town for that. As far as the regulatory compliance, I'm not sure everybody understands what a limited project is, and that we were trying to keep the focus on this under the Wetland Protection Act regulations. This is a limited project, and under the provisions, what we're trying to synthesize through here tonight is if we meet them, and I'm hearing that we do. I'm also hearing there are some concerns and issues with the existing conditions of the site that was chosen. Some of these came into play long before our NOI came in, and it doesn't go with what we're talking about here. And I know whatever we as a commission will decide, we will have to answer to the DEP. And I'm trying to keep us back on track for this because I feel like the public doesn't understand that we're actually their voice and on their side, especially when members of the public are constantly insulting us or criticizing us or making comments that don't help us get the job at hand done. And I understand that it's not always clear to the public what our focus is. But if we will answer to the DEP, I want to know, how will the town deal with these issues that are being brought up that don't pertain to what we're trying to do here tonight? So that's my question. Thank you.
Thank you, Angela. One last comment from Lisa, and then we are going to finish this hearing on this. Lisa? Lisa? You don't hear from her. Rob.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Is it Lisa?
It's my brother. It's
we can't hear you clearly.
It's my turn to speak. Can you
your connectivity is not great. Sorry. Rob, it sounds like, we need a continuance.
It was.
Do you think your consultant can provide all the additional information?
Too much is going on. Okay, sorry.
Just find my name and unmute the microphone. Right there.
Sorry.
All right, you got me now? You feel me now?
Is this Lisa?
Yeah, Lisa, we can hear you.
Hello? Hello, Lisa? Hello? Sorry, Rob. Do you want?
Sorry, what's your question again, Tom?
It sounds like we need some more information from your consultant to answer some of the questions for tonight. And I'm thinking that, whether we need a continuance to October the 7th. Is there enough time?
Ziad?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Could I have a motion to continue this hearing to October the 7th?
So moved.
Second. Roll call.
Abadili.
Aye.
Hearn.
Aye.
Kashulik.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Sampu.
Aye.
Tangney, aye. That's unanimous, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One procedural question on the continuance. Do you want us to represent the entire presentation again, or just the continuance?
No, just the additional questions that we're trying to address.
I think if I could jump in here, certainly one of the questions I thought was left open is dealing with PFAS, and if we add this groundwater, what's going to happen to it, et cetera. I think that was one issue that was left open, in my opinion. I'd like to see addressed.
Right.
What would be really useful, actually, is that there's been a lot of questions out there. If you could, what are the ones the commission wants to have addressed? Do you know what I'm saying?
Can we get a summary of what open questions there are, please?
So I don't need it right now, but if the commission could forward to me those open questions, I can get them to see it, then we can sort of pick our way through those things, because we may have taken different notes than you took, et cetera. So I just want to make sure we're answering the right questions so we don't come back with answers. Then you say, well, I wanted something else answered.
So let me work with Ed to prepare the list for you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Tom, that list should be published. That list should be available on the website.
Yeah. Yep. It will go onto the website.
Yep.
The next continuance is the Barnstable Clean Water Coalitions. I was not there for the hearing, so I want to pass it on to Angela to do this.
Thank you, Tom.
Tom, you didn't take the vote, the roll call for the continuance.
Could I have a motion to continuance the Town of Barnstable DBW to October the 7th?
I actually thought we did, but.
Second, yeah.
Roll call.
Abadili.
Aye.
Hearn.
Aye.
Schulich.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Sampu.
Aye.
And Tangney, aye. That's unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So,
all right, so moving on, Town of Barnstable Clean Water Coalition. This is a continuance from 9/9, waiting for the issuance of DEP number. The quorum is everyone except Tom.
And me.
And
I'm
Bill. Sorry, and Bill. We received the DEP number SE36310. Could I have a motion to close the public comment and authorize the staff to issue the order of conditions?
So moved.
Second.
All right, Tom, can you just do roll call?
Yes. Abadili.
Aye.
Sampu.
Aye.
Kushilik.
Aye.
Tankney.
Aye.
So it's 4-0.
Perfect.
We have one certificate of compliance, SE3-4525, Kenneth Moulton. Could I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Hearn.
Aye.
Kushulik.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Sampu.
Aye.
Tangney, aye. And Abadili.
Aye.
That's unanimous, Mr. Chair.
We have two sets of minutes, September the 2nd and September the 9th.
Make a motion to accept the minutes for September the 2nd and September the 9th.
Second.
Roll call.
Hearn.
Aye.
Kushulik.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Sampu.
Aye.
And Tangney, aye. And Abadili.
Aye.
That's unanimous, Mr. Chair.
Our next hearing is at 6:30 on October the 7th. Could I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Abadili.
Aye.
Hearn.
Aye.
Kushulik.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Sampu.
Yes, sirree.
And Tangney, aye. That's unanimous. We are adjourned. It's 9:16.
Thank you all. It's a long night.